Today, I'll be walking you through how to create an entry and catalog it. We'll start on the All Entries page, which shows everything that we have cataloged thus far. To create an entry, click on the orange plus sign in the bottom right corner. Here, we have a few options to attach media. We can select a photo to find a photo stored on our computer, or we can select File to select a different file type, like a PDF, Word, or Excel document. We can also create an entry without media if we don't have any and add it later. In this tutorial, I'll be cataloging Yves Saint Laurent's Mondrian dress from his Fall-Winter 1965 to 1966 collection. The first piece of data we'll be entering is a title. Catalog It doesn't specify a particular format for assigning a title, but it should be clear, consistent, and searchable. We don't need to put details like size, condition, or accession number in the title because Catalog It provides separate fields for details like this elsewhere. The title should identify the object by indicating the maker, if known, the type of garment, and the date it was created. In this case, my title will be Yves Saint Laurent Mondrian Dress 1965 to 1966. If I didn't happen to know these details, I might write sleeveless geometric shift dress, comma, 1960s. We'll click Next. Next, we'll have to choose a classification that describes this item. Many of these classifications contain sub-classifications. For example, art contains painting, sculpture, and work on paper. In almost every case, we will be working with the object artifact classification. We will further refine this field to clothing, dress, costume, or sometimes to textile. In this case, it will be clothing, dress, costume. We'll click Done. Now we can start documenting the item. In the top right-hand corner, we will add the catalog number in the entry object ID space. A catalog number is a unique code assigned to an item when it is first added to a collection or database. It contains a three-part code that indicates the year the item entered the collection, the acquisition group order, and the specific item number. For example, if the catalog number is 1995.4.1, this indicates that the item was acquired in 1995, that it was the fourth collection of items acquired that year, and that this is the first item in that collection. Moving on, you can see that there is a long list of fields. We will only be completing a specified list of fields. All other fields can be disregarded. Some of these fields are free text fields, which allow you to freely enter data, such as description, whereas others, like the category field, prompt you to make a selection from a list. Let's begin with description. This field should be a short narrative of the attributes of the item. The description field should never be subjective. For example, we would never use the word beautiful to describe this dress. Rather, what color is it? Is there a pattern? Does it have a short hemline or a long hemline? In this case, I might write a minimalist shift dress featuring black lines dividing blocks of red, blue, yellow, white, and beige. Next, we'll move on to collection. This refers to whether the item was donated or sold to SMOC as part of a group. For example, if an organization donated 100 items to SMOC, this is something we would like to have documented and be able to easily search. This field will not be applicable for every item. Next, you'll enter your name in the Cataloged By field. We'll now move on to Category and make a selection from the 10 pre-entered categories. These include body adornments, clothing, accessories, and components, dressing and nightwear, footwear, hair adornments, headwear, main garments, outerwear, protective wear, and underwear. In this case, it is a main garment. The section that we will spend the most time in is clothing, dress, costume details. For article of clothing, dress, costume, we'll make a selection from the list that populates. In this case, it is a dress. We'll do the same for clothing sex and select female. Moving on to size, if the garment contains a label with a size, we'll document that. If not, we'll add an approximate size. Let's pretend that we don't know the size of this dress. In this case, we'll write unknown. The next two fields, fabric and material, are a common point of confusion because the terms are related but refer to different things. Material refers to the fiber or substance the object is made from, while fabric refers to the textile that is made from those materials. For example, with a pair of Levi's jeans, the material would be cotton, but the fabric would be denim. There are also cases where the fabric and material share the same name. This dress is an example of that. The fabric and material are both wool. If applicable, add the fabric pattern name. Examples might include paisley, polka dots, or stripes. In this case, we'll leave the field blank. Similarly, if the item has a lining, we'll add that information. In this case, the dress's lining is silk. Next, we'll add all of the colors in the garment. This dress contains red, blue, yellow, white, beige, and black. Next, we'll move on to the Made Created section. The artist field refers to the designer, maker, creator, or contributor to the item. In this case, we know that the designer is Yves Saint Laurent. We'll then move down to the date and time period sections, which serve different purposes, even though they're related. The date refers to when the object was made, manufactured, or created, while the time period refers to the broader historical or cultural era. For example, if I didn't know the exact year that this dress was made, but I could tell it was made in the late 1960s, I might enter 1965 to 1969 and select circa. However, in this case, I know that it was part of the 1965 to 66 fall-winter collection. In time period, we'll select the century from the drop-down list. In this case, it's the 20th century. For place, we'll select where the item was made. In this case, we know that the dress was made in France. Moving on to label, inscription, signature. We know that this dress contains a label, which we'll select in type, and the location of the label is at the back of the neck. The next field is ethnography. However, if the item is not cultural dress, we will leave it blank. Moving on to the lexicon section, this is where we can assign standardized terminology by utilizing Nomenclature 4.0, Getty, or the Library of Congress thesaurus for graphic materials. We will be utilizing Nomenclature 4.0, which is a standardized hierarchical classification system used by museums to name and catalog human-made objects consistently. It contains thousands of preferred object terms organized into 10 main categories with classes and subclasses. For example, suppose there are multiple people cataloging an article of clothing together. One person might call it a blouse, another person might call it a shirt, and another person might call it a top. Nomenclature 4.0 provides a consistent vocabulary and hierarchy for deciding which term to use. I'll add a Nomenclature 4.0 term by searching for relevant terms. In this case, I'll search dress, and I'll add that main category, and then refine it further by searching dress again. And in this case, I will select cocktail dress. Next, we'll move on to the condition section. The first field is reason for exam. If the item was just acquired, the reason would be at acquisition. Next, we'll select the item's overall condition. Let's say that the condition is good. For the date examined, it will automatically select today's date, but please change it to the date the exam took place. Let's say that was August 7th. Lastly, we will enter who performed the condition exam. In this example, I am the one cataloging the item, but perhaps it was Melissa Ratcliffe who assessed the item's condition. The last section we will complete is provenance. This refers to the history of the item's ownership. For the sake of this example, I will say that it was purchased by Grace Kelly in 1966 and donated to Smock in 1995. The last task is to assign a tag in the upper right corner. Tags are managed separately from the rest of an entry's data. Think of tags as searchable and trackable digital Post-it notes that can be attached to your entries. These include incomplete, needs additional photos, needs additional research, needs conservation attention, pending curatorial review, and to be deaccessioned. Since each new entry will need to be reviewed for accuracy, please select pending curatorial review. Also, since we were unaware of the dress's size and wrote unknown, we can also select the incomplete tag. When you are done, select Create in the upper right corner, and we will return to the thumbnail view of all entries with our new entry displayed.